passions among some voters, for and against him. It's his strongly pro-Palestinian views. Some suggest he's been too willing to rub shoulders with individuals with deeply unsavoury views, in particular anti-Semites. He's used the word friends in relation to representatives of Hamas and Hezbollah, for example. He has reportedly been at meetings of a group led by a man who transpires to be a Holocaust denier, and even given him money. All this raises wider questions about the left, Israel and the Jewish community. It's a sometimes tricky relationship. I'm joined by Josh Glancy, who's a writer for the Sunday Times and the Jewish Chronicle, and via Skype, International Relations Professor Avi Shleim. Good evening to you both. Josh, what makes you uncomfortable with Jeremy Corbyn's politics as regards Israel and Jewry in general?
I think there's a sense that he chooses his company rather unwisely at times. I think some of the things he said when he described Hamas and Hezbollah as friends, but also some of the people he interacts with are pretty uncomfortable as a Jew, or they should be uncomfortable for anyone, really. And I don't think Jeremy Corbyn is anti-Semitic for a moment. We
should say no one is really accusing him.
They're not,
the Jewish
really.
Chronicle has run a lot about him
but there is an implication there,
perhaps.
Yeah. But I don't think he is anti-Semitic at all. There's no evidence for that. But I think in his fervour, in his sort of pro-Palestinian fervour, he has at times been very slow to question some of the associations and opinions of the people he associates with. And that is a little uncomfortable for someone who's auditioning for Prime Minister.
Avi Shleim, do you agree?
No, I totally disagree. I think that in the Jewish Chronicle attack on Jeremy Corbyn, there is a very disagreeable whiff of McCarthyism, of attributing to him guilt by association, of talking about the people he may have met and talked to or rubbed shoulders with, but that doesn't represent his views. They should focus on his views and not indulging these innuendos. Jeremy Corbyn has been a parliamentarian for 32 years. He has a consistent record of opposing fascist organizations like the National Front and of resisting and opposing racism, including anti-Semitism. So I think he has an extremely good record.
But are you not, sorry to interrupt, so sorry to interrupt, but are you not a bit uncomfortable yourself with this group, Deir Yassin Remembered, apparently led by someone who has called me a Holocaust denier?
I attended a meeting many years ago by Deir Yassin Remembered because I believe that the massacre in Deir Yassin should be remembered. But subsequently, the organization was taken over by Holocaust deniers, and I had nothing further to do with that organization.
Right.
So I do not believe that Jeremy Corbyn would knowingly associate with Holocaust deniers.
Josh, is it the root of all of this a sort of a sense on your part that the left has given up on Israel, that the left in politics has somehow deserted you, and it's difficult to now be left-wing and a big supporter of the country?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they've deserted me because I'm not Israeli, but what I would say is that I think certainly the Jeremy Corbyn left packages Israel in with America, with what they would call neoliberalism, with a lot of the things they oppose, and I think they oppose it kind of automatically, unthinkingly, and...
But it's not unreasonable for them to be pro-Palestinian, to vote for example, pro-Palestinian UN motions and to recognise Palestinian states. That's not anti-Semitic or
no, it's not.
Illegitimate, is it, in any way?
Here's what I'd say as an example. I think it's perfectly valid for someone in Jeremy Corbyn's position to dislike the state of Israel and dislike its current government. But I also think he should strongly dislike Hamas and Hezbollah.
You don't think he should talk to them even? Isn't it reasonable to talk?
Of course he should talk.
He was talking to Sinn Féin before the British government started talking to Sinn Féin.
Of course he should talk to them. I find it odd that he would describe them as friends. I haven't heard him describe Bibi Netanyahu and Likud as his friends. And so I think that it's a little of a concern that he seems to only see one group as his friends and not the other.
Avi Shleim, Josh's view is clearly widely felt among a lot of people in the Jewish community. Is it reasonable for them to have that fear or concern?
I believe that it's not a reasonable fear because one has to make a very, very clear distinction between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. And criticisms of the government of Israel are in no sense anti-Semitic, and most of them are perfectly legitimate criticisms of specific policies of the Israeli government and the occupation of the Palestinian territories. So Jeremy Corbyn falls within a very broad international consensus which supports the end of occupation and an independent Palestinian state. I don't see that there is anything to worry about there. I think that what the Israeli spokesman and their friends abroad are really afraid is that there would be a British leader who would stand up to Israel and hold Israel to account, because all recent governments, Labour and Conservative, have been very strong and uncritical supporters of Israel.
Avi Shleim, Josh, thank you both very much indeed. Now, today, August the 18th, is the 70th